Hello and welcome back to the next part. And now let's take a look at the various transformations which are available in the query editor, okay? So let's get back into the query editor, click on Edit Queries here, up here, and open the window. Okay, and here we go. Now get back to the data. So this is the data we actually need, right? Remember, these kinds of tables we just really do not load into the model. So what actually options do we have now? Well, you can see that we have a home, a transform, a add column, a view, and a help. So basically those ribbons here. And what do we find here? Well, new data source, we already covered that when we loaded the dates table. Now, recent data sources simply point to data sources you've used recently. Enter data, this would be an option if you want to enter data manually in Power BI. So instead of loading data using new source, you can also enter data manually. If you want to do this in the editor, you can do that. Data source settings, these are just additional informations about the file path, for instance, and so on. Manage parameters. Here you have the option, if you click on it, to manage parameters or to create new parameters. So what is a parameter? Actually, we cover this later on when we do it in DAX, but in the query editor, a parameter, you've already seen this as well, if you take a look at your dates table function. Because you can see enter parameters simply refers to the start date, the end date, the financial year start month. So these three entries here are all parameters. And they are defined within the editor code. So if you go to Advanced Editor, you can see on the top in the M code, there's a start date as date, an end date as date, and a financial year start month as a number. And these three names here are pointing to these three parameters, okay? And because they are here specified at the beginning in parentheses, and then as table used with these this arrow here, those three measures are actually, or those three values are parameters, okay? So these are parameters, and you have the option to create them yourself if you want to do that. The preview refresh, this simply refers to if you update one of your tables. So let's say you got complete new products, you renamed your products, you rebranded your whole company, and you have new names in this table here, then if you go to preview refresh, you would see a refresh of your new data, okay? Properties give you additional information about your data. Advanced Editor, we have seen this. This actually shows you the M code. Also for the other kinds of tables you have. For instance, if I go to, let's say, the sales table here, I could also go to the Advanced Editor to take a look at the M code. So basically all the steps which are applied here and all the ETL steps, so data cleaning and so on, which we can do up here, are actually recorded, then placed here, and also written under the hood in M, okay? And if you want to take a look at what those steps, which you can click here, actually do, you simply go to the Advanced Editor, you click on it, and then you can see all the different kinds of steps. For instance, remember, we appended the queries, and here is a name called append query, and it's called table.combine. This actually is the M function, and the source refers to 2018 and 17, which we appended to our sales 2019, which is the source here, right? And so on. So all these steps you're actually doing here in this GUI, so in your interface here, are actually recorded, written into M. You can take a look at it in the Advanced Editor, okay? And if you can write them in yourself in M code if you like to do this as well. But believe me, it's pretty difficult, okay? All right, so what else can we do? Well, we can choose columns. So if you click on this directly, you would choose them directly, but always take a look at this little small icon down here, okay? That's why this whole button actually is, shared between those two icons here, because if you click on this lower one on the bottom, on this little icon here, and then you have the option to choose columns or to go to columns. Now, choose columns simply means that I want to get rid of the other ones, okay? So for instance, if I deselect all and say only I want to keep product and location and then go to OK, then basically all the other columns get deleted, okay? However, of course, we have here our recorder, so everything we need to do to get it back is simply remove the last steps, right? Because you can see it's removed other columns, and if I want to deselect it or get rid of this step, simply click on the X icon and I get back my original data, okay? So this would be one option. The other option to remove columns is this icon here. Again, you can click on it and say remove columns or remove other columns. The difference is if I click remove columns, then the columns which I currently have selected, in this case the order ID because it's highlighted in yellow, would be deleted or removed. In the case I'm clicking remove other columns, then all the other columns which I currently have not selected would be removed, okay? Then beside this, go back to the choose columns here, we also have go to column, right? And the thing is, this is actually pretty helpful because if you have a large data set, so remember you might have 100 different columns in your data, then you do not need to scroll to the specific one. You simply go in here and you can search for one. Right? For instance, I'm searching for quantity, and then I can see, okay, quantity, and I can select it, click OK, and then specifically this column is selected, okay? And then I can work with this column. So this is an option which especially is helpful if you have a lot of columns and you're searching for a specific column and yeah, it takes you too long or too much time, then simply use this choose columns here, this option here. Now keep rows and remove rows, also pretty simple. If I like to keep rows, I can simply click on this and say I want to keep top rows. Also keep bottom rows if I want to do that, or keep range of rows, keep duplicates, or keep errors. And also the same is true actually for the remove. Remove top rows, remove bottom rows, alternate rows, duplicates, which could be helpful, as well as blank rows or errors if you have errors in your dataset. But let's say I want to keep rows, select keep top rows, and then say, for instance, I want to keep the first 10 rows. Okay, 10, click OK, and then you can see you only keep the first 10 entries in your dataset. Okay. And the other ones get deleted. However, of course, you can always go back. Simply click on this little X icon here, and you got your whole dataset back again. Okay? All right. Sorting, simply here, A to Z, Z to A. Of course, I think a lot of these options might be familiar from Excel or other kind of Microsoft tools you've worked with before. You can split a column and also group by. So take a look at the split. For instance, we could go to our customer data. Or let's actually go to our salespeople. Let's do this. And you can see we got a salesperson name, which is his name and his surname. And we can use this column here and can simply say, okay, we want to split this column. And then you have the option to split by delimiter, number of characters, lowercase, uppercase, digit, non-digit, and so on. But here in this case, we simply say by delimiter because we can see a space. So we select space. Of course, you could also use your custom one if you have another one, not the default ones. But in this case, it's a space. That's fine. And then we can say, where do we want to split? Well, we want to split at, let's say, the rightmost delimiter. Okay. So let's say this. Let's say there are no double surnames, and simply click OK. And then what you can see is simply we've got a salesperson here and then a salesperson name here, okay? And we got split those. And if you want to rename these columns, we can simply go double click on here and say this is the name, okay? Name like that. And then for the salesperson here, this is the surname, okay? Double click surname like that. Press enter, and now we have renamed them, okay? Again, if you go to Advanced Editor, you can see exactly all the steps. They're also recorded here. Rename columns, which is this one, and here table.rename, and so on. What actually happens under the hood using M. Okay. All right. So, but this is a great thing. Power BI provides us this interface, so it's easier for us to do the transformation steps simply by using these kinds of icons here. Okay. Beside this, we already have seen this. There's a data type. In this case, it's text. Also, because here it specifies ABC. If you want to change this, simply either click on this icon here and set the specific data type you want to use, or actually change it here. Just select the column, so it's highlighted with this yellow color here, and then actually change the data type. You can see it here. Okay. All right. What else? Well, also pretty important is use first row as headers. Or if you click on this little down arrow here again, you can also say use headers as first row. Okay, so let's say your first row are not your headers and you will actually want to use different ones. What you do is you can demote the headers actually, right? So if you use headers as first row, see what happens that now the original headers are now in the first row. So this one option, again, I'll go back. And also if you want to use the first row as headers, so these ones as headers now, I can click on it and now they are back as the headers, okay? We got those two options here, but in this case, I simply get rid of this, and also get rid of this, so we have the default ones again, okay? But this is how easy it is to actually do this. Also, you have the option to replace values. So you can simply click on this in your data set, and then you have the option actually to replace a specific value. So it's like find and replace in Excel, right? So for instance, there is this name read, and I want to find read. So search for read, and I name it reader, okay? And I click OK, and let's take a look at where it is. Where is read? Here in the 15, read, and I click OK, and now there's reader, okay? So this would be an option to change actually a specific value, because by default there is no other way. You cannot simply click on this little cell here like in Excel and change this. That's not possible, okay? Because Power BI always reads the whole row, okay? There is no option to actually change a single value. But this would be one way to do it using this replace values here, okay? Okay, I get rid of this. All right. Then appending queries, we have already seen this when we actually appended all the sales tables. Merge queries, we will see this later on. Also an option actually to, well, combine tables in a way, okay? But actually stacking them horizontally. And also we need some kind of a common field, which we are using for the join. But we'll see this later on, okay? So there are a lot of different transformation steps already under the home ribbon. Of course, there's also the transformation ribbon. And if you take a look closer to that, you will see that some of them are actually repeating now. For instance, take a look at the split column here. We have already seen this, right? And also use first row as headers. Also the group by. All these transformation steps are also available under home, okay? So this is also something which is, quite handy in Power BI, then that you have several options actually to do the same thing, okay? So because the options are simply, repeating itself in different tabs here, okay? You have the option actually to here transpose, also an option. If you want to do this, you can count the rows, you can rename, you already have seen this, so either you double click on a specific column, or you can also click on this, and then also you get inside here and can rename it. You can detect the data type, in case it's not properly detected yet, but you can also change it here if you like to do that. For instance, if I take a look at my dates table here, I go in here, and if I scroll to the right, then we can see that there is still one column, this ABC123, which is not recognized correctly what kind of data type it is. This FY18, actually it's a string value because there's a FY before, so it can't be a number. So what we could do is we can either click here and say then, you can see data type is currently any. We can try to detect the data type. If I click on it, you can see it's ABC, okay? It has correctly identified it. Otherwise, of course, we could also simply click on this and then specify the specific data type. Also an option, okay. We have the option, again, replacing values. We've seen this before. Unpivot columns as well as pivoting columns. So unpivot columns as well as a pivot column. It's down here. This would be option in case you want to pivot your data. It's also sometimes really, really helpful. Beside this, we have the option to format things, but this is also something we actually don't do, at least from my point of view, not in Query Editor itself, but we would rather do that in the Power BI, so in the report view. Or in the data view, okay, or as well in the relationship view, but not in the query editor itself. It's not necessary. Okay, beside that, we also have transformation steps like for date and so on, and we also have options, of course, to run specific scripts. So in case you are programming with R or Python, you have the option to use actually those programming languages within the query editor as well. But in case you want to learn more about this or get an introduction to that, I'm referring you to other courses I've created, which are also available on Power BI and using those kind of tools, okay? Add column as another one would also be a column which you can actually now create some kind of calculations. Also something we might take a look at later on, not now. And also then this date option here, which also kind of specific, where also offers us a lot of options. Okay, so that's it, and can't wait to see you in the next video. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully see you there. Best.